Can I tell you something? Do you know that one of the most valuable things that you could ever own, one of the most valuable things that you own right now is not assets, it's not money in the bank, it's not your job, it's not your business, it's not even any certification that you could ever earn, it's not a coach that you could ever hire, it's not any course that you could take, it's not any skill that you could learn. One of the most valuable things that you own right now is something that you have been trying to hide for a very long time. And what do you think it is? What you have been through. Yes. You see that divorce you went through, that financial issue you went through, that debt you went through, that health challenge you went through, that diagnosis that scared you to death, that decade that you were broke, you were squatting, you could not afford basic living amenities, that time you were stuck in your business, that time you were stuck in your relationship, that time you had to separate from your spouse, that time probably you lost a loved one due to one issue or another, that time, every single thing that you can ever think of right now that you have survived, that thing that you have survived that you did not tell anybody publicly because you are not even sure if it's professional, that thing that you just keep, that is like a scar, that thing that's like a scar, but you have healed from it. See that thing? I can assure you that someone right now is spending thousands of dollars trying to find their way through it. Somebody right now is currently walking through that same path that you walk through and needs help urgently, and they will be more than willing to pay to have you hold them by the hand. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you how you can turn your pain, how you can turn your scars, how you can turn those tears, how you can turn your mistake, your story, what you have been through into a multi-six-figure business that not just only makes money, but also changes life and builds wealth step by step. So I want you to stay with me because this one is going to be very personal and it's also going to be very powerful. The truth of the matter is that we live in a world that is called the experience economy. In today's world, people don't just buy just products and services anymore. And it's one of the major reasons why personal branding is hitting high never before. People are buying transformation, especially in the world of information. Anybody can literally go to an AI and type in, I want this, and get pure information. So information is not lacking. We live in a world where information is at our fingertip. You cannot even hold anything anymore. Back in the days when you can sell information separately and people will be willing to pay for it. Right now, everything is accessible to everybody. But what is lacking is what is called transformation. People buy the feeling of being understood. They are willing to buy somebody who has already walked through that same path that they are facing. Sometimes they are going through issues and they are facing issues and they go to AI provide guidelines, but they are still stuck. They still do not know what to do. And that's where you come in. See, one of the most powerful ways to sell transformation is not just in credentials. It's not by saying I have X amount of years experience in this, I have this certification, I have that certification. It's in testimony. Let me ask you a simple question. If you have two buyers, one person is telling you the features of this iPhone, let's use an iPhone for example, telling you the features of an iPhone, it can take good camera, it can do this, it can do that. And you have another person that's telling you, look, thank God for this iPhone. It had my emergency contact in it. When my friend was kidnapped, I was able to use it to get to her. The iPhone has this and it's helping me. The Apple Watch, for example, is helping me get through this season of my life that I'm currently battling this amount of illness, and you are going through that same thing. Be honest, who are you going to buy from more? You're going to buy from the person who has a story attached to it. And I learned from one of my earliest mentors, Russell Brunson, who taught the power of the epiphany, right? That path that you're walking through right now, the easiest way to sell it, because people buy emotionally and they use logic to justify it. The easiest way to sell it is by you telling the story. What happened to you? At what point? What were the struggles? And at one point, did everything suddenly click for you? So I want you to think about it. When you are going through something hard, it could be like a health scare, it could be like a business failure, a broken marriage. Do you look for the person with the most degrees? The answer is most likely no. You go and look for the person who has been there and done that. This is what happened to me of recent, I think yesterday, or something I'm currently going through right now. And to be honest with you, I just had to remember a friend that went through similar thing. And my mind went straight to call her and say, look, I'm going through this challenge. What can I do? So you see, we always look for the person who has been there every single time. See, that's the power of lived experiences, and it's a power that no certification, no matter how great the certification is, can be able to replicate, because it is uniquely yours. Anybody can go to ChatGPT and copy. Anybody can copy your course, copy your framework, but they cannot copy your unique story. Now, let's talk about this lady, Brené Brown, the lady that spent over many years as an academic researcher. And so she was studying about shame and vulnerability. And her work was pretty solid and credible. She was well known within academic circle, but outside the academic circles, no one knew her. Then in the year 2010, something happened. She gave a TEDx talk in Houston, Texas. And at that TEDx talk, she stopped hiding behind the scene and she told her story. You can go and search it up on YouTube. And she gave the story of her own shame, her spiral moment, her breakdown, what she called a spiritual awakening. And that story was what she had been through, what she had been battling with. That singular talk, that singular speaking conference became one of the most watched TEDx talk in history, over 60 million views. Now, it's not because the research changed, but because she stopped hiding her stories. And from there, she went on to multiple best-selling book, built a media company, landed multi-million-dollar Netflix deal, all from one decision: to stop separating her research from her testimony. Am I saying doing research is bad? Of course not. But in everything you're currently doing right now, I always tell my client this: how did you get to where you are right now? What were the pain you had to pass through? Because sometimes we do not even know what we had to pass through. We just trivialize it. So when they are saying it, they are telling their own story. They are shocked and they realize how much transformation they can bring. Your story is not a distraction from your business. For many of you, in fact, your story is your business. You just haven't found a way to package it yet. I want to ask you a question, and I want you to be completely honest with me. What is the one thing that you've been through? Okay, you've been through in your life, but you haven't talked about it publicly because you are not sure if it belongs in the business context. I want you to just drop. It doesn't matter. Let me know. You might be surprised how many people, how many women, how many men, how many kids are just waiting to hear your own story. So here is a framework. So women that I work with, I take them through this framework so that they can be able to turn their story into a business. So I'm going to take you through this framework. So here is the framework. Every woman that I mentor who wants to turn their story into a 6-figure business, I take them through this framework. So part one of this framework is for you to identify what I call the transformation arc, also known as the epiphany. Let me explain. Now, every powerful story follows the same structure. So you see, you have the before, the descent, and the after. And every single one of those stages contain value. So usually the before is where your audience currently is right now. So where the woman and the man that needs your help, that's where they are right now. Let's say, for example, you struggle with a health challenge for your child, and then that's what you were looking for all forms of solution. So they are stuck exactly where you were stuck. And so when you describe your before in vivid, honest detail, what happens is that they feel seen, and then they feel like this lady knows exactly. You are referring to me. I have one of my clients that works with narcissistic relationship, and most of the time whenever she posts content out, usually the comments are saying things like, oh, you are literally talking about me. It's me that you are actually referring to. How well do you know my husband? You're just describing how he exactly behaves. So because why is she able to do that? Because she has actually lived that experience before. Okay, we have the before, and so the next one is what I call the descent. Now, the descent is the crisis. So that usually is like turning point, the epiphany. That point is where everything changed for you. At that point, usually, maybe you were in a toxic relationship, and then at that point, maybe that's the point where people feel like they hit their back against the wall. That's the point where you just know that this has to change. This has to stop. Okay? This is where your credibility changes life. It's not just about the degrees, or it's in your scars. Okay, let's say you were trying to get maybe you had a illness, and then you were trying to find a solution for it, and then you tried also, and then the doctor told you that your child has like days to live, or like days to live, and you get to the point where you just hit your back against the wall, and you are like, what do I do at this point? So usually that is the turning point. That's where people hit the epiphany. That what Russell would call the aha moment. Okay? The third part is what I call the after. Now the after is now where they want to go to, where you are right now, because you have gone through that stage, and now their dream life is what you are currently living. Now it's a proof that there is a way through. Do you see how it's so? When people tell me that selling is not hard, if you can take people through this process, trust me, before you are done telling your story, people are already bought in. So it's the same thing that make people trust that this lady can go through it. So there's this lady, money, the one that help people with relationship, that makes her client believe, you see, if I can be able to go through it and come out of it and stronger, you too can be able to do the same. And so people believe what it has to offer. All right. So with that, people are able to trust you. So I want you right now to write out your arc. Be specific, be honest, and more importantly, be brave. Now the part 2 of this framework is what I call find a transferable framework. Now let me explain. Your story is personal, but the wisdom and the knowledge you gain from it is transferable. So just like, and we do this all the time, right? Somebody, your boyfriends are telling you, like, went through this, and you are telling them, oh, I went through the similar thing as well. So when I went through it, it was what I was able to do. This was what I used. This was where I went through. This was the product I used. So those things, oh, this is what I had to stop doing. That wisdom is transferable. Now, what is your job? Your job is to extract the lessons, the steps, the decisions that you had to take, the mindset shift you had to make, and the package them into a repeatable process people can follow. So it's not just enough for you to just say your story. Sit down. I went from being in a toxic relationship. For example, you can say I went from being in a toxic relationship into finding myself again, financial independence for myself. What were some of the steps that I needed to take? Or what were some of the steps that I took that was able to get me out of this thing? So you can say I started by myself. I hit my back against the wall. I started educating myself about narcissists, like that you had to take, and package it into something somebody can buy and something that it can be transferable. So I want you to ask yourself, what will I tell someone who is in the exact place I was 5 years ago? Somebody is stuck, maybe she's trying to lose weight, and the same thing that you are right now, you're able to achieve that weight loss. So what will you tell your older self? What were the 3 to 5 things you did or wish you had done earlier that changed everything? That becomes your curriculum. That becomes your offer. So you're not just selling a story, you are selling a framework, you are selling the map you drew while you were finding your way through on your own. And trust me, you will save people a lot of time. Now the part 3 of this framework is to match the offer to the audience urgency. And this is where a lot of people miss it. Trust me, I know almost everybody here will tell me that they have a story to tell, but it doesn't just stop at story. The final piece is actually knowing who am I really talking to, and how urgently do they need what I have to offer, and they be able to pay for it. So for example, like a woman who just left an abusive relationship needs that support now. Like my client that helps women that come out of narcissistic relationship. At that point, when they are coming out, they need that help. They are confused. They don't know what to do. They need that help. So our urgency most times is going to be high, and she needs the right guidance. So it's very easy to whatever you have to sell to her. It's not just enough to just say you want to sell, but you are helping her through. Okay. For example, a woman who, let's say she's okay with where she's doing well in her career, she just wants to just do a business by the side, just like a small side also. Urgency might not really be much, but let's assume that woman is struggling to make ends meet and she needs to increase income very fast, or else her children are going to drop out of school. That point, the urgency is really high. So why is it important? Is that high urgency will command audience that will value what you have to offer, will pay attention, and they're also able to pay premium prices as well too. Low urgency audiences need more nurturing. That's not saying that they cannot buy from you. Most times they will buy from you, but understanding that they might just need more urgency. They need what you have to do most times is to sensitize them as to why they need it. And understanding where your ideal woman is would help you tell you how to price, how to show up, and what kind of offer to build. Okay, let me tell you about Lisa Nichols. Lisa Nichols is, if you know Lisa Nichols, one of my favorite motivational speakers, and she's the founder of The Secret, Motivating the Masses. Yes. She was a single mother on welfare in Los Angeles, and this one, she could not even afford to buy diapers for her son, and she would wrap him in towels. But she eventually went on to become one of the highest paid speakers and transformational coaches in the world, with a company that generates about approximately $30 million every single year. Her entire brand, if you are listening to Lisa Nichols, her entire brand is built on one story: the woman who couldn't afford diapers, who became a millionaire. And that story is the anchor of every talk, every program, every offer that she's ever created. She didn't go get another degree. She didn't wait until her story felt polished enough. She just told the truth about where she started from. And the world, sometimes it just needs that wisdom to pay for the wisdom she carried on that season. So sometimes your rock bottom moment is someone else's roadmap. It's time for you to own it.